In this demonstration, we're going to continue on working with an Access database. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do in this database is that we're going to update the record in the contractor table. So I'm going to select contractor table and open it in the datasheet view. Okay, and I'm going to update record 1015. And if I clicked right here, you're going to see the sub data sheet for this record, and we're going to update it right here to 30 hours, and instead of 55 it's going to be an hourly rate of 60. Okay, so you can see got that update. Alright, then we're going to just close the contractor table. Then we're going to open the office table. Okay, and we're going to change in the datasheet view, we're going to change the font size of the datasheet to 12. Okay, so we're going to change the font size in this table. Okay, so just you can select the data in here and just change your font size. Okay, then we're going to select and resize the office ID, state, and zip columns in the office table to best fit. Okay, and we've done this before. So again, you can do I'm going to click out of it, and I'm selecting the office ID. I want to do the office ID, the state, and the zip. So we can do a right click on top of the office ID and then do field width, best fit. We're doing the state, and we're going to do field best fit. Okay, and then you also do the zip code, and you can do best fit. Delete a record. Okay, so you delete your record office ID 103. So again, it's just a matter of selecting, right click, delete the record. Okay, now we're going to create a new query in the design view that is based on the client table and add some fields to that. So first thing we're going to do though is we're going to close this, save the changes, and then we're going to create a query. Okay, so to create a query, we go to create. We're doing the query design, and the design view is, and we're going to base it on the client table. So pick client, and we're going to add that. Okay, we're going to close the tables that way, and then we're going to add the first name. So I'm double clicking, last name, client since. So I'm going to go down and find that. Client since. Corp. Okay, in that order. And then we're going to save this query as design start dates. Okay, so once we come up here, it's going to ask if we want to save it. We're going to say yes. And then we change that name to client start dates. Click OK. Okay, and then we can run it by clicking, and this is what it would look like. Okay, so I'm going to explain for a second. Remember, with queries, the data that you see is not actually in the query. A query points to the data in the table based on what you tell it to. So you're querying the data or asking a question of the data that's in the tables. Okay, so this is just a pointer. If you change something and close this query. Okay, so I'm just going to save it. All right, then we're going to create a new query in Design View that is based on the Client, Building, and Contractors table. So again, we go to Create. We're going to go to Query Design. we're going to base it on 3 tables this time. So client, here, we're going with billing, and contractor. Okay, we're going to save this query as clients and contractors, and then do the following. Okay, so let's go ahead, we'll do our stuff, then we can save this. Okay, so let's go ahead and add last name. We're going to add, from the client table. We're going to add the last name field from the contractor table. We're going to add start date and end date and total hours from the billing table. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to make this so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to do start date, end date, total hours, and hourly rate. Okay, in that order. And then we're going to save it and run it. Okay, run the query. Okay, now we can close it. We want to save it. Yes. Now we're going to put that name in there, which is clients and contractors. Clients and contractors. All right. Next, we're going to use the navigation pane to copy the client and contractors query and then paste it as the client and contractors July start, and then we'll do some modifying to it. Okay, so we're going to copy it, and then we're going to make another table as client and contractors, but we're going to call this one client and contractors July start. Okay, click OK. And then we're going to modify the table, or the query, by adding a condition to the start date. Okay, so we're going to go into the design view, and we're actually adding addition to start date field to select records and clients that were contracted on or after July 1 of 2016. Okay, so we opened up the client and contractors July start, and now we'll put that condition in there, which is that were contracted on or after. Okay, so we want it to be greater than or equal to. Okay, so greater than or equal to July 1, 2016. Okay, then we'll run it. Okay, and this would give us the results of all the people that were contracted then on and after July 1. And as you can see, that looks correct. I always look to make sure that the query ran the way it was supposed to. All right, so we're going to save this. Okay, then we're going to take that query and copy and paste it, and we're going to rename that one. So we'll copy again, just like we did before, paste, and this time we're going to change the name, and it's going to be contractors just July, not July start. And then we're going to add a new condition to this one, so I'm going to open it. Come on, there we go. And okay, I have my query open, and I'm going to select the records with contracts that start on or after July 1, okay, 2016, and end on or before July 31st, 2016. Okay, so I've got a starting date already in there, so now I need to put the ending date in it. So this would be less than or equal to July 31st, 2016. Okay, and then we'll run it, make sure that it looks okay. Okay, and it does there. I'm going to go back. Then you're going to sort the records ascending order on the start date field. So if you look at the start date, there's the ability to sort ascending. Okay, we're going to change the start date field so it appears in the query results. Okay, and then we're going to move that start date field so it follows the last name field in the query design. Okay, so again in this one you want to make sure that the field is showing. Again, so one of the things I want to highlight is that, like the start date, if you didn't want it to show, you would uncheck the box, and if you want it to show, then you have the box checked. To move things around, you just drag and drop. So if I wanted this to be at the end, I can select it and then I can move things around that way. So in this particular query, I do want it to show, and I do want the start date to be after the last name. Alright, I'm going to run it. Okay, and okay, that looks fine. I'm going to save it. Alright, now I'm going to go back to the July one. Now, one of the things in this July start, whoops, that's the one we just did there. I want the July start, and let's make sure I got the right one. This is July, the July start. Okay, so again, this one shows it with the start date showing, and I'm going to go back to the one right before that we just did, and do the July. Okay, and in this one I have the July query. Alright, so we have 3 different queries that have been done that are being based on each other. So in the client and contractors, okay, this one, we did a query. Okay, we added 3 tables. And this one, which is the client and contractors July start, was the next one. Okay, here. Alright, and again, remember with this one here, that if you don't want something to appear, you can uncheck the box and you can move things around. Okay, so that in the July. Okay, and this would have been on or after July 31st there and July 1st. Okay, so this is one there. So again, if you want it in between or you just want it before. Okay, so and this one for July start. Okay, we'll just do the on or after July 1. We'll take this one out. Let's run it. Okay. And I'm going to save that one. And then if I take one more look at the July, okay, which was based on 1, I have here, this one is after July 1. Okay, I want to make sure that I've moved the start date back, so because I can move things around. And then if I want to limit the data, like in between something, I can make this one so that it's after July 1, but before, by doing the shift and I'm going to do the less than, and then the equal to, and then I can do 7/31, okay, 2016. I'm going to run that one. Okay, so I have 3 different queries that I have shown how you can take one query and then you can do variations of that query and then save them so that you can go back and forth and manipulate the data. And you'll hear this a lot of times called slicing and dicing the data the way you want it. Okay, so again, you can go through 3 different queries and do all kinds of different things to each one. All right, make sure though when you finish up that you have each query, of course, the way that the instructions before you actually submit it into SAM. All right, now we're going to create a new query in Design View based on the contractors table. Okay, so we're going to close this one, save it, and then we're going to base one on the contractors table. So we're going to go back to Create, and we're going to go to Design, Contractors, and add it. Okay, and we're going to add, whoops, close that. And then we're going to add the last name. Come on, there we go. Whoops. And if you do it twice by double clicking, I double clicked the second time, that's okay. You can come back and just selected it. Okay, whoops, there we go. Select it. And if you hit delete on your keyboard, it'll go away. So because I just want one last name. I want interests. I want credentials. I want hire date. I want PA. Okay, fields in that order. And then I'm going to add a condition to the credentials. Okay, so I'm going to add a condition, which is going to be to select records that contain the values MSN. Okay, and then I'm going to save it. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to make sure I'm in the criteria under credentials, and I'm going to put in the MSN, okay, under the criteria right there. Okay, we need that. You'll notice when you click out of it, it will put the quotes around it, which it needs, and does that automatically in the newer versions of Access. Okay, we're going to run it. Okay, so I'm going to go up and click Run. Okay, and I now have all the ones that are credentials MSN. Okay, I'm going to save this. Give it a name right here, not query 1, and it's going to be called MSN. Okay, so we're going to create the next query. We're going to copy, paste. Okay, and this one's going to be called MSN RPA. Alright, I'm going to open that one. We already have the MSN, and then we want to indicate if the contractor is a physician assistant, and we know that that PA field was one we added, and it is a yes or a no field. So we need to put in there that we want them to have that, so that would be a yes, and it's an or. The difference with an or, an and means that you have them all on the same line. Okay, but if you want them to be an or, you see that or right here, you skip to the next line and you put in yes. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and run it. Okay, so we should have people that are physician assistants that way. And we look like we have one that's not checked, so we'll look at that. Okay, and so that would be because they are, even though they're not a physician assistant, they are MSN. And remember, it said that you had to be either one or the other. And so the query is what we want. All right, once you've done that, then you can close that query and save it. All right, then we're going to create another query, okay, and design view again. And this one's going to be based on the client and billing tables. So client and billing table. Okay, and once we get those in, we are going to add the last name and first name fields from the client. All right, and last name and first name. All right, now, again, if you need to move something around, so if I want my last name to be first, of course I could have clicked on it that way, but I can also grab this, grab the table. I've got to get the little box in there. There we go. And then I can move things around. So I have last name, first name in the client table. Now I want to do totals, hourly rates. Okay, so let me open that up. So total hours, hourly rate. Okay, from the billing table. All right, and then we're going to run it. Okay, and then we're going to save it. Okay, and we're going to call this one okay, we're going to call it the client amounts. So I'm going to client amounts and click OK. Okay, to that table I still need to add a total row, so I'm just going to open it back up now that I have it named, and I'm going to click back over into the design view. Okay, and I'm going to add a totals row. Okay, so I'm going to add the totals row by making sure I'm on the home tab, and then I'm going to click total. Okay, and then I'm going to add a sum because I want to create a function that totals the hours, and then a does the total hours and the average hourly rate. So average hourly rate, and then I'm going to close this and save it again. Alright, then I'm going to create a new query in Design View that's based on the client and billing tables. Okay, so based on the client and billing, okay, and I'm going to add last name from the client, and I'm going to add total hours, start date, end date from the billing. I'm going to create a calculated field named number of days in the fifth column. So I'm going to create a calculated field. Okay, so I have to put in first, in that fifth field, I've got to put in number, okay, of days. And there, that's going to be the name. Okay, and then I've got to create an expression in there. Okay, so I've got then, after the name, I have to put a colon. So I'm hitting the shift to create my colon. Okay, and then I have to put in the expression. So it has to be, it's in square brackets, and then I'm subtracting the end date field so start date field from the end date field is what I'm doing so that I get the number of days that way. So I've got my open bracket, okay, and I'm going to put in start date. Okay, so start date. Now it's important that you spell it exactly like what's in here, because if you don't, it doesn't know what it is. And then I put a closing bracket, and then I'm going to subtract it, another bracket, and then I have to do end date. And another bracket. Okay, and if I have everything spelt right, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click out of that. So far it looks okay, and I'm going to show it, okay, so that way when I run it, I'll be able to see it. I'm going to sort the records by the number of days in descending order. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Okay, so right now I have some numbers in there. Alright, now I have the negative dates because of the fact that I subtracted the start date from the end date. Okay, so again, I don't really want them to be a negative number. I want to get the date, and so I'm going to reverse this. I'm going to open this up a little wider so I can see it. And so all I'm going to do is change that so that the end date is from the start date. All right. And then once I've got that in there, let's make sure, okay, so we've got rid of our negative numbers and we're in descending order. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead back now. I also need to put a caption on this field, and I can do that in the property sheet, okay, for that field. And I'm going to put a caption on there that says number, okay, number of days. Alright, so once I have the caption and the property sheet put in there, I close it, and then I'm going to run it, and I do have number of days, which is correct, and then I'm going to make it fit the way it ought to by doing right click again, field width, best fit. Okay, and now I can save and close this query. Okay, say yes, and I'm going to name it the contract days. All right, I'm going to create a new query. This one is going to be based on billing and contractor. Okay, we're going to add the office ID from the contractor table, total hours and hourly rate. Open this up so I can see total hours, hourly rate. Okay, and then we're going to use a function to calculate the total number of hours and average hourly rate for the contractors. Alright, so then we're going to add these by doing what's called a totals. So if you click on totals, you'll see it adds a total row here. And the first one we are going to group by, but then we're going to add the average and the sum underneath it. So for the two columns, we're going to use here, we're going to use the sum. Okay, and then we're going to group, instead of group by here, we're going to average this column. Okay, and these are going to allow us to use these functions. And then we're going to here we're going to add some names in here in just the fields. Names. Okay, so we do that kind of like we did before when we did the calculation. And this one we're going to put in total contract hours. And that colon is really important, okay, because that distinguishes what that name's going to be in there. And then we also want on the property sheet for that one, we also want to put a caption on that one that of total contract hours. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at that one and make sure it works. Okay, so we're running it and it looks like it works. Let's make that best fit. Okay, and so we change the name and put a caption, and then you still need to do one just like we did that one. You're going to do one for this field as well, because you're going to put average hourly rate on that one, and then add a caption called average hourly rate on the property sheet. Okay, so you can do it just like the one we just did. Then you're going to save and close. Okay, and the name of this one was Contractor Totals. Okay, now you're going to make sure everything's closed, and you're going to compact and repair, and then you're ready to close it. Okay, and you'll have done all the steps once you finish up, and you will submit it into SAM.